have a little bit of answers first. Well, what is it? It's a one number which was dubbed to measure everything, because previously, prior to the Great Depression, policymakers didn't have something to look at, to really get an overall health check of the economy. Most of the information back then was highly fragmented. So in 1937, the concept of having such a measure was born. It was the brainchild of Nobel Prize winner Simon Kuznets, and the idea was really to have a measure that would capture activity. Individuals, firms, and the government. Obviously a couple of decades later, though, we had the economist Moses Abramovich first warned of the shortcomings of being fully dependent on this concept. So in 1972, the king of Bhutan declared his aim is not to increase GDP, but GNH, gross national happiness. Despite that, the world embraced the concept, and in 1999, it was declared by the U.S. Commerce Department as its greatest achievement of the century. Now, 10 years later, the French government co-authored a report together with another Nobel Prize winner, Joseph Stiglitz, calling an end to this obsession, or what was then dubbed GDP fetishism. And the following year, Britain announced that on top of the other measures on the economy that it looks at, it would also survey happiness, which brings us now to China. The country, of course, GDP grew at an average annual pace of 10% over 30 years in the process, lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. Local government officials there were evaluated on delivering GDP growth. But we all know that the unwanted byproducts are problems that China has only recently started to address. Things like this: record pollution, corruption, and traffic jams. So 2 years ago, 2013, President Xi Jinping said GDP growth would no longer be the sole measure of government performance. Now, we spoke earlier with the chief Asia-Pacific economist at S&P, and he said, indeed, that GDP is not enough.
GDP is kind of on this pedestal in some countries in Asia, including China, and we want to downgrade it, right? GDP is kind of a byproduct. Consumers and households, they try to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Firms try to keep their shareholders happy, and GDP kind of flows out of that. So it's an important number. We need it for planning and kind of budgetary purposes, but we shouldn't be targeting GDP. We don't think that's a particularly good idea.
So yes, for all the benefits and advantages of GDP and measuring its growth or contraction, what is unclear really is how an increase in output is a good measure of everyone's welfare, well-being, and of course, the quality of life.